always give that effect, you know, not the real stuff. Okay. Yeah. So this program that we're going to see right now is kind of explaining in more detail what we do to take care of the animals here. And then also it's going to tie in, are they doing the Journey Get Moving, or? And it's okay if they're not. It ties in with that or with animal habitats. So
Okay.
with the badge animal habitats or with the Journey Get Moving together. So one of the focuses is going to be how they use energy. Okay, and so when that will be part of what we talk about during this. Okay, and then after we get done with this part, then you're going to all do a hands-on activity. You're going to actually feed the contained animals, what you're going to do. So, okie dokie. So, first of all, just real quick, give you a little history about our center. And let me see again, how many of you have been here before? So most of you don't know how we got started then, right? This is an important story for you guys to know, the girls to know. Okay? Back in 1971, way back, there were no rescue centers on the entire West Coast. Sad to say, if an animal like this washed up on the beach sick, it just died, and they just buried it, and that was it. There was no way, nobody to take care of them. Well, right here in Laguna Beach, one time there was a sick little harbor seal on the beach, and a little girl, just about your age, saw it, knew this was wrong, so she went up to a local lifeguard to tell him about it. His name was Jim Stauffer. And poor Jim, he was just a young guy, a young lifeguard at the time, and he looked at her and he said, you know, I just save people. Well, she looked him in the eye and she said, well, you're supposed to save lives, aren't you? Well, poor Jim, he felt so bad. And so after his lifeguard shift was over, he went down there, and sure enough, there was that harbor seal with a pup. And so after some struggling, he was able to get it into the Jeep and scoop it up and take it home. This was before it was against the law to do that. So that very next year, the law was passed. And wasn't quite sure what he was going to do, but he did have a friend in town who was a veterinarian, and so she gave him instructions what to do. Apparently he took an old waterbed frame and lined it with a shower curtain to put water in it, and nursed this little animal back to health, and then sent it back home again. Well, after that, people started hearing about what he had done. So then whenever a sick animal, you know, a seal or sea lion washed up, he was the one they went to. So he got busier and busier, and finally another one of his buddies, another lifeguard, John Cunningham, joined him and started helping him. Now, during the school year, John was the local high school science teacher here in Laguna Beach. And so he actually developed a new class on how to care for marine mammals, and he recruited his students to help dig the first pools that were here. And the only reason we can be here is because the city leases the property to us for $1 a year. But so it's basically like giving it to us for free. And so that's how it all got started. It was from one young girl that knew there was something wrong that needed to be changed and spoke up and did something about it. Isn't that cool? And now the entire West Coast has stranding centers. Every bit of beach is covered. Okay, so and we're responsible for the Orange County beach, is about 53 miles of beach, is what we take care of here. And so we talked somewhat about our common patients here. The California sea lion. This one has a funny face because it had a mouth injury, is why it looks like that. And so I've told you pretty much about them. And then the northern elephant seals, and you know, you'll see them in March or so. And then the Pacific harbor seals, like Lanier and Triscuit, you just got to see them and hear about them. And then sometimes we do get northern fur seals. Most northern fur seals live much further north. There is a small colony of them out on the Channel Islands, and some years there's some pups that get in trouble that do wash up on our local beaches. You can see there's a couple of years ago we had 4. Those were 3 of the little characters that were here. They're very cute. They're very similar in many ways to California sea lions. A much thicker coat of fur. Like if you could count the hairs in 1 square inch, they have like over 300,000 hairs per square inch all over their bodies. So very, very thick coat of fur. They're really cute. They're kind of nasty little critters. They're very nifty. They're very different personality-wise than our sea lions are. So, I mean, they're all wild animals. They just have these different distinctive character traits. And one thing, let's see, well, Okay, now I'll explain that later. So, they are all in this family called pinnipeds, which means fin-footed or flipper-footed. And there are over 33 different types throughout the world. These are the ones we rescued because these are the ones that live around here. And there's a poster right there that kind of shows some of the other ones. And they're all semi-aquatic. Some come up onto land more than others. The elephant seals, like I said, are at sea 9 months out of the year. Fur seals stay in the water more, but the sea lions are up on land, and so are the harbor seals all the time. So. And we talk out there about the differences, and we're going to look at that a little bit more, but you can see really clearly. See those cute little ear flaps on the sea lions? And then on true seals, they just have a hole where the ear is. But let's talk first about how they get their energy, okay? Because this is kind of something that's, but see you guys, you girls are all fourth grade. So next year in 5th grade, this is going to be a topic you're going to talk about this some this year and a lot more next year, so you'll have like a head start, okay? And so, do you know where all your energy comes from? What is it that allows all of us to be alive? Yeah. Excellent, good for you. Yeah, our energy comes from the sun, okay? And then of course we have our producers, our plants that take that sun, and through photosynthesis and through using nutrients and water from the ground, they create chemical energy or a type of sugar. And that's what, energy gives us all the energy. Yeah. And then you have small fish that eat the plants, and then of course that energy is consumed by them. And then it moves into the larger top predators like sea lions. But all of this energy originates from the sun. And seals and sea lions get all their energy from eating like fish, squid, and octopus, which then of course makes smaller things. If it gets too chilly, So a little bit more about how they use their energy and what they use it for. Seals and sea lions use their energy to maintain their bodies, all their body functions, all their organs, all the different parts of their body, and for reproducing, and for movement, okay, and to stay warm, okay. So these are some of the ways that they use and conserve energy. This little guy, he's laying with his flippers tucked underneath his body at that point in time. Their flippers are kind of like little radiators. If it's too hot out, they'll go in the water and put their flippers up, and the breeze helps to cool their bodies out that way, because there's not much fat on their flippers, so they can the blood vessels go through them, so they can cool themselves off that way. Or if it's chilly out, they can tuck their flippers underneath their body and help to regulate body temperature that way. So these are all ways that the animals actually use energy. And some actually use energy for migratory patterns, for migrating. And our northern elephant seals are actually long-distance migrators. They migrate quite far. And this chart kind of, can you guys read this chart? See that? Here's us here. There goes the Alaska on the Aleutian chain, almost over into the Sea of Japan. And ones that had radio tags on them, you can see how far they migrate each year. So that's why they're at sea for 9 months out of the year. And if you ever look in that Get Moving book, it will give you a chart of how far different animals migrate, like butterflies and different animals. And these guys are one of the longest distance migrators of any animals, actually. So let's go back and talk a little bit more about the differences between seals and sea lions. So what you're going to watch now are 4 short little videos, and it's going to show how they use their energy to move, okay? And what I want you to notice when this little guy scoots across the beach, this sea lion, is notice how, see, you can even see already how his back flippers are tucked up underneath him. He can rotate them at his hips, and he can use them kind of like legs when he's walking on the land. Also notice his long front flippers. Do you see any fur or claws on those? No, there's no fur. He has 3 little claws on his back flipper, but his front flippers are long and there's no fur and claws on them. He can move a lot faster than that if he wants to. They're just kind of moving along. Okay, so that's how sea lions move on land. Now we're going to see how seals move on land. And the things to take note of is that when he's moving, his back flippers are just going to drag behind him. He's going to kind of undulate along like a snail or a slug. I call it galumping, but that's just my term that I use for it. And then you're going to also notice his front flippers are much shorter, and they've got fur and claws on them, okay? So watch how he moves. Doesn't that look like galumping?
It looks like a caterpillar.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, that's kind of an undulating thing where you can see he's using the muscles in his body to help move himself along. And again, they can move very, very fast if they want to, for sure. So, also, they move differently when they're in the water. So first of all, you're going to see how sea lions move in the water. And they propel themselves along with their big front flippers. That's how they use their energy, is to propel them, push themselves along. And their back flippers just kind of look like a rudder when they're going through the water. He's going to swoosh and go out of the picture. See that? See how fast they can go?
Whoa.
Yeah, pretty fast, huh?
It looks
Yeah.
like it's a car.
Kind of. I always thought it kind of looked like a ballet or a dance under there. And I think, yeah. Okay, now we'll watch how seals move under the water. Quite differently, they are going to propel or push themselves along with their back flippers, and their little front flippers are going to work like rudders. So that's how they use their energy.
And this is slower than the others.
But again, don't be fooled. If they want to, they can go quite fast. They're very agile. You know, they have to, otherwise they would not have survived all this time from predators like sharks and things like that. So it's just, I don't want you to think because what you saw here that they always move that slowly. They don't always move that slowly, okay? All right. And so those are some of the basic differences between seals and sea lions. And before we go on, I just want you, because you guys play along with me for a minute, are you ready? And I think this helps to remember when you do something with your hands and stuff, right? So let's do the difference between seals and sea lions with our hands, okay? So first of all, seals have holes where their ears are. Can y'all do that? Good. All right, then sea lions have little ear flaps. Okay. Right, then get your flippers ready. Okay, seals, bring your flippers in and stick your claws out. Seals have short front flippers with claws on them. Okay, now stick your front flippers out carefully. Sea lions have long front flippers with no claws. Bring your claws in, okay? All right, and then the last one we kind of really have to pretend. The seals, go ahead and just stick your hands behind you. When they are moving along the land, they undulate along and their back flippers just drag behind them. And then go ahead and put your back flippers up here, and sea lions can use their back flippers for legs when you're on the land, okay? So that's kind of, now you guys are experts in the differences between seals and sea lions. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit more about what we do here. And of course, well, we use letter R to help you remember, just like you've already learned the R's of recycle, reuse, and reduce, right? For taking care of the planet. So our letter R's are rescue, rehabilitate, get well, release, and then we do a lot of research here too. So as you get older, if you're interested in marine biology, we have are posting new, they're kind of technical, but they're very interesting reports from different research projects that we do here, and then of course education. Okay, so that first R stands for rescue. So you all know, do you ever go near any of these animals if they're on the beach? Do you ever go near them? No, never, never. It's like we were talking about the harbor seal, right? And so you always want to stay at least about 100 yards away from these animals and just admire them from a distance. And you know, some people try to help them, and there's just really nothing that you can safely do to help these animals. And so, like I was telling you before, if you can help spread the word, it really helps us out. So here's some things to tell people about why it's so important to keep your distance. Because we got a lot of people that come here on vacation, don't we? And they don't know. So we can share this with them. First of all and foremost is they bite. I showed you those teeth. Would you want to get bit by those teeth? No. And they're, you know, even if they're looking sick and they can hardly move, they can whip that head around and bite you pretty easily. Also, people like to let their dogs run loose on the beach. And these animals can wash up with some very serious diseases, and those diseases are, some of them are very transferable to your dogs. So if somebody lets their dog run loose with one of these animals on the beach, please let them know, get your dog leashed, and not just for that animal's safety, but especially for your dog's safety. The animal is sick. If you go near it, you're going to stress it and make it more sick. It might have enough energy to go back in the water to get away from you, and then that might be a death sentence for it right then and there. And then also there's the law, the Federal Marine Mammal Protection Act, which says the guidelines say to stay about 100 yards away, and you're never allowed to touch or harass these animals. It is against the law to do that. So can you help us and share that with other people? Yeah? Cool. So you can see some examples of, we usually don't rescue off of buoys. This is only in a real critical situation that we'll do this. Once they get in the water, we can't get at them, and it's a little more dangerous for our rescue team. As you can see, she's putting a net over this animal. We have these great big nets, they're called restraining nets, and that keeps them from running away from us to go back in the water. And of course, this is an example of one that's in critical condition. He's got part of a fishing net around his neck, and it's cutting deeper and deeper into his neck all the time. And so that's, you know, this would be a high priority, that even if it was out on a jetty or somewhere, we would try to get to that animal and get the stuff that's stuck around their throat off of them, and then try to get them back here to the center. So what you do is, of course, you call us. Or, you know, you can call or tell a lifeguard or tell a police officer. They all know. We're the ones that are licensed and know how to safely handle and which animals need to be rescued and all that kind of stuff. So you would call us, and we would be the ones to take care of them. Now, they're stranding and getting in trouble for different types of reasons. Sometimes we have these warm water issues where they're not able to get enough to eat. And especially with our sea lions, because the mothers have their pups, they're nursing their pups for just half a second. They're nursing their pups for the whole first year, so that they can't travel too far. And they rely on cold water fish, your sardines, your schooling fish. And when our waters get too warm, the food they rely on leaves. It goes out to colder, deeper waters, and they can't get to the food that they need. So then it creates a huge problem. And that's when we were having so many animals the last time. That was the reason for that particular situation. Another problem is interaction with humans. Maybe people are thinking they're doing a nice thing by feeding an animal off of their boat like this. But it's a terrible, terrible thing to do, not only against the law, but like what happens if you give your dog a treat at the dinner table? Do they start coming back and expecting more? And of course, that's what happens when they try to feed them off the boats. That's how we get those animals with the fish hook injuries, we get boat propeller injuries. And so these are some of the reasons why the animals come to us in trouble. Now, did you have a question or a comment?
So I had a comment and then like a question. So my first comment was like once I was in Hawaii, and then I saw just like a seal and a turtle on the beach just laying together. We stayed a long way away, but was it okay to take? But we took pictures. And then also my question was, I think next, is it okay to ride dolphins if you stay in a hotel like in Hawaii or something?
Yeah, they have the places where they have dolphins in captivity for people to ride them. Yes, of course. And you know, that's not a terrible thing, because it gives people, these are animals, these are always rescue animals that would never make it in the wild, and so it's giving people a chance to get closer to them. Have you done that? Oh, would you want to? Yeah, yeah. I don't blame you. I'd like to do it too. But you know, it's giving people a chance to get up close and really get to know these animals and be able to appreciate them. And I think that if we know more about it, then we want to protect it more, right? And so those kind of facilities, I mean, that's the kind of place where Lumiere is going to go, where people are going to come. I don't think they're going to ride him, but they're going to be able to feed him and interact with him. And that's going to be what he's going to be doing for his life. Because he'll probably live much longer than the wild ones. But so that's in a way that helps all the animals. And usually it's always done with animals that would not survive in the wild. So absolutely, good questions. Okay. So you know, we have these issues, and then we have pollution problems. Okay. tons of trash, most of it's plastic, is flowing out into our oceans, okay? And you all know when it says on that storm drain, don't dump because it goes to the ocean, they're not kidding. You know, once it gets down that storm drain, there is nothing to stop it. From there, it goes from storm drain, straight out to the rivers, and straight out to the ocean. So the more we can help educate people how important it is, beach cleanups are great, but if you pick up trash wherever you live, even if you can't see the ocean, know that you are helping to clean up the ocean when you do that, because that's where a lot of it is coming from. Much further inland, a lot of the trash comes from, and it flows straight out to the ocean and is creating this huge garbage patch out in the ocean. These are some pictures of that garbage patch. How many have heard of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch? Have you heard of that? Yeah. Well, this is actually trash that's accumulating out in the ocean right now. Right now, they say if you could gather it all together, it would be, our Pacific one would be bigger than the state of Texas. It's that much trash. They're saying it almost is as big as the United States now. And 80% of that trash is trash that starts on land, and 80% of it is plastic. And of course, plastic doesn't break down, does it? Or it doesn't decompose. It just breaks down into smaller pieces of plastic. It doesn't ever decompose again. And so, I do have this picture. So this is a picture of the Pacific Gyre, or garbage patch, that we have here in the Pacific. All the major oceans throughout the world have these garbage patches, these gyres, and what they've determined now for sure is if we don't reduce our use of plastic, by 2050 there's going to be more plastic in the ocean than there are fish in the ocean. And so it's really, really causing a lot of problems with the health of our oceans right now. And it can look a lot like food, like a plastic bag. See the clue here? See, almost all sea turtles now have plastic in their stomachs, because does that plastic bag look a lot like a jellyfish? It does, doesn't it? Yeah, and that's their favorite food. That's their favorite food, is jellyfish. And so this is a problem we see a lot of. This was a little guy named Tim Tam. It came to us, that bag was half stuck in, half stuck out, and he, was in really bad shape. Luckily, we got to him in time, and we were able to rescue and save him. And it's not that he's not smart as far as sea lions go, but can you see how a shiny plastic bag could kind of look like a fish in the water? They can get confused, because it's not in a wild animal's nature or in their DNA to be looking for people trash. They'll be looking for food, they'll be looking for predators, but it's not, they're not expecting trash from people. So, and this is an example. This little guy's name was Peyton, and he came to us. Does he look like he has any body fat left on him at all? No. So he has has no reserves of energy anymore, does he? So he came, and we tried getting him well, but I'm afraid after a couple of days he didn't survive. Whenever we do lose a patient, we always try to figure out what went wrong, so maybe we can better save the next one. So we did look inside Pink's stomach, and we did find something. What do you think we found? Yeah, you guys kind of know the theme going on here. But we don't share this to make you extra sad. We only want to share this to help everybody you get a picture where you actually see something, and it just makes it more real, right? So this was really what was in this particular little guy's stomach. Yeah, there were over 7 plastic bags in here. See that? So could he digest or hold food in his stomach anymore? No, there was no room left in there. And again, it's not that he wasn't smart. He was hungry, but he thought those shiny little things were food, were fish. And then also, see this little brown line right here? You see that? Do you know what that's left over from? That's a balloon that's left over from one of those latex balloons that had been a helium balloon at one time. And, they go up, and then where do you think they wind up? Out in the ocean for the most part. The winds carry them out there. And I'm sure nobody expected that to happen, but we're not out there, and we don't see this. One of our volunteers just did a little experiment. He went slowly in his boat from Catalina straight back to Long Beach, picking up what he found along the way. He picked up over 150 balloons in just one straight run. Can you imagine the rest of the ocean, how much is out there? And so this is real. This is a real problem. And you know, if you're ever in a situation with a group of people that are thinking about having a party and releasing balloons as part of the deal, maybe you could tell them what you learned here today, and maybe they could do something else besides release balloons. Maybe they could release bubbles or something. But this is one of the many problems that we have out here in the water. And you know, we all figure that the more people know about it, the better, right? And they can all work together to help solve the problem. This was one of our patients. This is a type of netting. It's called gill netting. And these are like ghost nets that are floating out there in the ocean. They can span a mile long. Thankfully, just in the last couple of months, California has finally banned the use of these. So we're going to still have this problem with gill nets that fishermen have cut loose that got snagged. And these are like death traps for the animals. They call them ghost nets floating out there for a while. But it was going to be something that's going to stop soon. Anyway, we got Barry and we got to him in time, and were able to get this netting off and send him back home again. Another thing that we're talking about is fish hook injuries. So when they come to us in these different conditions, you know, they're almost always starving to death. And can you guys drink the ocean water? No. Guess what? Neither can these animals. Now, we all need water to live, right? So, you know where they get their water from? They get their water from the fish that they eat, from the fluids inside the fish's body. That's how they get their water. And so when they don't get fish to eat, they're not only starving, they've lost all their blubber and their body fat, but they're super duper dehydrated. They're very thirsty and dehydrated in the same time. So when they do come to us, once they've gotten their exam, that's one of the first things we need to do. We need to figure out what's wrong with them, and then we need to start getting fluids into their body as quick as we can. And so this shows how we do this. Watch this closely, because this is what you girls are going to do in just a minute, okay? And so it's a 2 or 3 person job, depending on how many people we have. And this person on the right is who we call the restrainer. Now see those heavy-duty gloves he's got on? That elephant seal pup he's restraining has very, very sharp teeth. And so they always wear protective gloves whenever they're around those animals. And he has his knees on either side of the animal to keep him from being able to move around too much. But he's not really squishing him and sitting on him. He's just kind of, you know, has knees keeping him as still as possible. And he has a towel. See that towel? When he first started, he had that towel over his head. And so his job, first of all, he'll have one of these biter tubes in his pocket. And he'll pull it out, and it's like a little hard plastic tube. And he will very carefully, usually working from the side up to the front, get this biter tube into the animal's mouth so we can't bite down all the way, first of all, okay? Then, once he gets that in, this person on the left, she's a tuber, it's time for her to do her job. First thing she has to do is measure the size of that particular animal and get an approximate distance from the mouth down to the stomach. And so once she gets that, then she will gently, carefully put this flexible tubing through the biter, down the throat, down the esophagus, all the way down into the stomach, okay? Now, once she gets the tube into the stomach, then everybody stops. And the restrainer, the guy on the right, has a second job to do, which is what he's doing in this picture. Does it kind of look like he's kissing that little elephant? But he's not kissing it. Actually, what he's doing is he is listening. Do you really have to guess what he might be listening for? What's your guess?
His heart.
Good guess. It would make sense. Make sure his heart's still beating. But actually, there's something else he's paying more close attention to right now. What he's doing is he's listening for the animal to breathe. Now, they can hold their breath for a long time, so sometimes it takes a minute or so. But once that animal breathes, then it's okay. Now we know for sure we got the tube down into the stomach. We didn't accidentally go down the trachea and get it into the lungs, because that could be very bad to put fluid in the lungs. So it's down in the stomach, and once that animal breathes, then the tuber has a second job to do, and or this can be a separate person doing it. They add this canister, and at first the lid's off of the canister, and they start getting fluids down into the stomach. And this is what the animals get. Have you ever seen this before? This is Pedialyte. This is for people too. If you get sick and you get really dehydrated and sick, you might be given this. Now, they get the clear, not the flavored, but they get Pedialyte to begin with. And so that's all they get. And then once, we'll put a little bit in and stop. Get them breathing again so we know it's going down. If the trachea is not blocked, they can still breathe. And then we pour the rest of the Pedialyte in. Okay? And we'll do this 4 to 5 times a day. And in between, our floors are heated, we got soft blankets, and in between they just basically eat, sleep, and poop is what they do for the first week or so, because they're just so tired, and they're just trying to get recovered back. And with the heated floors, then they don't have to be using any energy up to try to warm their bodies up. Because in the February, so it can get pretty chilly here. So we don't want them wasting any energy. So this is another way that that we know it takes energy to heat their bodies up. So we try to counter that with nice warm floors for them so that all of their energy is going into their recovery. And so now as they get stronger, we have to start giving them fish again. And the way we start introducing fish back into their bodies is we take the fish, we take the Pedialyte, we put it in the blender together, we blend it up, and we give them fish smoothies. Sound good? Yeah, and that's actually what this little guy's getting in this picture. So as they start to get stronger and they get the fish smoothie, then we use this plunger to actually force it into their body. And so that's how it starts up. And like I say, it depends on each animal. It's different. Any medicine they need will just be put right in with the fluid that we're giving them. And then as they get stronger, they'll start getting their own little private bowls of fish. They don't have to share with anybody. When we start off, we use a fish called capelin, and that's what this little guy's getting. All of our fish is restaurant grade, restaurant quality fish. You could eat it. It's flash frozen, and then we thought what we need for each day. And then as they get stronger, the way we figure out how much we feed them, it varies, but it's about 10% of their body weight. So we're weighing them all the time as they're recovering. If they're not gaining weight, then we know something's wrong, and also we know how much to feed them based on what their weight is. So that would mean that they weigh 32 pounds at 10%. You just move the decimal point over to the left once, and that means that guy would be getting about 3.2 pounds of food each day. And so that's another way that we know the amount of energy that they need for recovery. When they're out in the wild, they don't actually get this much to eat. But while they're here, it works out well. So as they get stronger, they'll get herring, which is a nice fatty fish, and it works very well for their recovery. And then some of them, especially our elephant seals, when they come to us, oftentimes, remember I said that they just get nursed by mom, but they don't get any training from mom? So they often come to us having never eaten fish in their life before. So we actually have to take them through fish school. And so at first, sometimes we have to actually put one fish in their mouth at a time and rub their neck just to get them to start swallowing the fish. And then as they get a little stronger, can go back in the water, we have to teach them how to eat fish in the water too. And so once they figure that out, then they start gaining weight really quickly. And so when they're strong enough, and these are sea lions here, to eat on their own in the water, then we put them with other animals at the same level of recovery, and 3 times a day we throw the fish in the water, and they have to compete with each other for it, which is what they're going to have to do when they go back out into the ocean, right? They have to compete with all the other sea lions for that food. And so that's what you see here. You also see that there's the 2 animal caregivers are standing behind these black boards. This is something we use a lot out there, unless we're with one of the animals like Lumiere or one of the ones that, we're getting ready to go to a zoo or an aquarium. The rest of them, we use these boards whenever we're moving the animals around or anything. And one of the most important reasons for these boards is to protect our caregivers, because remember, they bite. And we want them to stay wild animals. We don't want them to get tame or anything. So this helps to protect our people, it helps to move them around, and it works very efficiently as far as handling the animals out there. See, they all have handles on the back side, so they're easy to manipulate and move them around. So this whole process, it takes, usually about 3 to 6 months to get them well. Like again, it varies with each animal, and we have one short little video. Let me show you this. And what you're going to see first of all, this is a squid. This is a little fur seal, and he was reluctant to start eating again. So we enticed him with a juicy little squid to start eating it at first. And here's that competitive thing I was telling you about. What they just swallow them whole. When they swim around like that, the fish almost look like they're swimming. It almost looks like they're alive. But they definitely use a lot of energy while they're hunting, while they're trying to get that food. So that's what the competitive feeding looks like. Okay. Like I said, this takes about 3 to 6 months, depending on the particular animal, what his problems are, and what he needs. And we're watching them closely, we're weighing them, giving them any medicines they need. If they need medicine, we'll put it in a fish and give them a medicine fish, separate that animal out. And this is what we're doing. Here's some more examples. That was, you saw that picture I showed you down up there of Aries. That's Aries again. Here's little Milo, a sea lion, before and after picture. And so once we get them strong and healthy and competing well, and our vet says they can go home, then before we do send them home, we do put a flipper tag on them. And our flipper tags look like this. Each one has his own special number. And we're a hospital, so we keep complete records on all of our patients. And if they ever need help again, we can share what we did with them when they were here. If it's a sea lion, we put it on the front flipper. If it's a seal, because their bodies are shaped different, we put it on the back flipper. And if it's a boy, we put it on the left flipper. And if it's a girl, we put it on the right flipper. And I can tell you my girl joke. Okay, and the way you can all remember that, if it's a girl, it goes on the right flipper, because girls are always right? Yeah. So anyway, that's how you remember that. And so if we always, I'm sorry, I didn't show you the Milo's after picture. Look at that, isn't that amazing how, so that's what she should have looked like. That's if she was getting the nutrition she needed. Isn't it amazing? Their bodies are not only skinny, they don't even develop. Their whole structure does not develop. And then as they get the nutrition they need, their whole body develops into what it was
And they get
supposed to be.
fat.
They get that blubber, that body fat, which they need to survive. And if he was, things have been going well, he would have already had that out in the wild. But their body gets bigger, it gets longer, the whole thing, it just gets bigger. Okay? So, we've rescued them, we've rehabilitated them, they're at a healthy body weight, their medical problems are cleared up, the veterinarian says they're ready to go home. And so our last R is that it comes time for release, which is very joyful. We were talking about that little down there. They always get that flipper tag. And when we can afford it, we do put satellite radio devices on them to see where they're going. These are very expensive. They're $2,000 to $3,000 each. So we, when we can, we do this. We glue it onto them with a special glue. It stays on for about 3 months. As they shed their fur, eventually it comes off. And but we get a lot of important data and a lot of important information from those radio tags. So this is what we do over and over again. Yes.
How come they get to release with the buddy?
We like to release them with a buddy because when they first go out there, it takes them a little while to get oriented, you know what I mean? Be able to find the place where the other sea lions are at, and they first venture out on, to just kind of get them started off in the right direction. Now, that doesn't mean they stay together. We're not sure yet, but we're pretty sure they don't really care which sea lions they're with, just as long as they're with other sea lions or other seals. So, but it's kind of an added insurance to help them to get themselves, they've been here for a few months, now they're out in that vast ocean again. And when we release them, we know that there's places with seals or sea lions close by. So just getting them back. And then many of them, they go all different directions. Sometimes they go up to Santa Barbara. Sometimes they go way out on the Channel Islands. We had one little one that was one of the last ones to release that year, and his name is Drew, and we were all quite attached to Drew, and he had a radio tag on, and so he released him. He looked like everything was normal, and all of a sudden he started going south, and so we checked out to see what was happening, and he joined a pod of gray whales, and he was migrating south with a pod of gray whales. Pretty smart, you know, lots of protection right there in the middle of a pod of gray whales. And so, you know, he's living the good life down in Mexico now. And yeah, so we know he was, you know, he wasn't born down there. He was simply born around here. So, and then sometimes we'll see ones that were together here, hanging out together out there on the buoys and on the rocks. So we're still not 100% sure. There's a whole lot we don't know about the ocean and about these animals. Yes?
Is that true?
No, that's not true.
Whoever that is just so cute.
Well, you know what? They all are cute, aren't they? Yeah. Don't they make you want to really take care of the ocean and have it be a nice place for them to
I
live?
just want to hug them.
Well, we all do. I know. We don't get to do that. That's the hardest part when we first come here to volunteer. No, don't talk to them. No, you don't get to pet them. No, don't look them in the eye. We had one elephant seal pup. What was it? Henri was his name. He was French. His name was Henry, but we called him Henri. Anyway, Henri, we rescued him 3 times, and he was such an odd elephant seal. He would be in the pool, and we'd be in the yard talking, and he'd put his head up there and look at us, and start going, you know, we're looking at him and go, no, I'm not supposed to talk to you. You know, it is so hard not to, because he's looking right at you, talking to you. And so, they all have personalities. It's amazing. This Lumiere out here, we were lucky we got to go in the yard with him because he's going to leave soon, and it's a special treat. And he was, you know, he kept paying attention to us, the other 2 ladies and I, and, you know, we thought he was paying attention to us. But we had towels to sit on. And as soon as we walked away, it wasn't us. He wanted the towels. And so as soon as we left, he grabbed the towels and took them in the water. So there, you know, I could go on and on. Ziggy, the one that's at the LA Zoo, Ziggy's fetish was the garden hoses. If could get near one of those garden hoses, chomp, there was a hole in that hose. So we had to always be guarding the garden hoses when we were out squirting and cleaning stuff down with Ziggy. They all have amazing personalities. It's just, you know, you get to know them, and it's pretty something. Yeah. Now that was at Barry. I wanted you to see his happy ending. So there was Barry when he got to go, and you know, that's the scar. That was the scar from the wound that netting around his neck had caused, but that also made him easy to spot. So we know that, you know, he's doing well in the water. So and then these are 3 little harvests. This release happened a long time ago. We do them differently now. People got to get closer. We don't really do that anymore, but they're so cute. They're all glumping back in the water. See how happy they are? I think they're saying thank you. I'm not sure, but I think that's what they're doing there. So that's, you know, that's what we do here over and over again. Are there any questions on this procedure, what we do here? Yes.
How do they know how to duck or after they've been here a long time, how do they know how to in the water?
To go under the waves and everything. It's kind of instinctive. It just kind of comes natural. But we've had a few that didn't. And every once in a while, not very often, we always stay there and watch. If it turns out that they're not doing well, they're not negotiating the waves or rolling around, then we'll bring them back. And we'll just keep them longer and decide what we need to do next. So we don't just dump them and go. We watch very carefully. Yes?
What was the question again? Oh, what is what is his name?
Lumiere?
Lumiere, what type of diet does he have?
Lumiere is eating herring, just like the other animals. Yeah.
Also, how do you know who's a girl and a boy?
The veterinarian looks at their, their genitals, their sexual genitals, and can tell the difference, but all girls and boys are different down there, so they look and they tell us.
Okay. What if they just